The following podcast may contain adult language and conversations revolving around situations not suitable for immature audiences. Spoilers and general political incorrectness can often be expected, so listener discretion is advised.
They must be destroyed on sight!
Hey, I'm Michael Bay, and when I'm not making soulless corporate pieces of shit that crap on your childhood, I listen to They Must Be Destroyed on Sight, a movie podcast. Cue the explosions! Alright, so we're live here on G+. Don't expect anybody to show up and ask questions, but I do have the YouTube thing open just in case. We're doing another episode of They Must Be Destroyed on Sight, and I'm here with Paul this time around. So how you doing, Paul?
How you doing? Doing pretty good.
Good.
Here we are tonight.
He's got his steak. For those listening at home, you won't be able to see this, but he's got a picture of his steak that he dropped on the floor.
Yeah. Still gonna eat it.
Yeah. We're gonna be talking about werewolf films this time around. We're not gonna get too in depth. As far as they go, we're not going to have a entire fucking retrospective of the genre. Although I think at some point I might want to do an episode like that about some sort of subgenre of horror films where I get really into detail and shit like that. But basically, we're going to be talking about essentially the werewolf films we like and the werewolf films we don't like. And this I think this one's going to be dominated a lot more by Paul because he's much more of a werewolf film aficionado than I am. I think it's your favorite horror genre, isn't it?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Cool. Unless you have anything else you want to add or talk about first, we can just jump right into you getting into your list of werewolf films you like.
Okay, well, if you want to, I can just start off the little program here with an opener, and then just jump into it.
All right, cool.
Okay. So I figure we can just go right into starting the show off as werewolves. Okay, So this has been something that's been in every culture across the world in different forms. It's spanned the breadth of time. Things, and started. The earliest thing we could know is the King Lycan that tried to trick Zeus into eating human flesh, so he turned him into a wolf. That's why lycanthropy. We have that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, throughout the annals of history, we had different sicknesses where people blamed it on werewolfism and salves, magic curses, hypotrichnosis, the disease that grew many different hair all over people's bodies.
Yeah.
But in the early, we're going into the werewolf movies that we know and love now. Basically, in the early 1900s, Kurt Siodmak revamped the idea of the werewolf, put in his own little twists and turns, and basically created what we know as the more typical werewolf we see today. The idea of silver bullets and the full moon, things like that. They weren't typical ideas back then. And of course, he's the one who wrote the screenplay for the epic The Wolfman in 1941.
Yeah. And I think he was the one who introduced the idea of sort of the satanic pentagram as well.
Yep, the symbol of the werewolf being.
Yeah.
Yep. See those iconic things are not as old as actually people thought they were. Because maybe people thought he got them from someplace old, but really he just poetic license to a certain extent. But yeah, and that's the kind of interesting thing. And once I've watched werewolf movies, from then on, you could see now and again they pull out some of the older stuff.
Yeah.
And they try not to stay with the Kurt Siodmak ideas of how werewolves become werewolves. Let's go back. Let's just start off. I want to start old. Let's start with some good ones. I'm going to go to 1935, Werewolf of London.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I do enjoy the Henry Hall film. Travels to Tibet to find a flower. He's a botanist. He travels to Tibet to find a flower that only grows in a certain valley, and it blooms under the light of the full moon, which is weird. But it happens to be also a temporary, or at least something that dulls the effects of werewolfism. And when he's up there, he actually gets attacked by a werewolf. And he manages to survive, bring the flower home, grow it in a false moonlighted environment. And then the werewolf, a very respectable looking gent, comes up, and actually that's the werewolf that attacked him, trying to get the flower back. Yeah. And so it's a battle between the two werewolves in it. It's actually a pretty nice film, and unfortunately, because the werewolf is taking him over and makes him kill the one he loves, so he tries to go after his wife, and it didn't work out for him. Let's just say that. Which is interesting because at the end, his final breaths are still in werewolf form because, who could take off makeup that quick? Yeah. And but there's a speaking werewolf, so that's like the first speaking werewolf on film, which I thought was a little interesting twist to have him talk at the end without being completely changed back to human.
Yeah, that's neat. I haven't seen that one in a long time. So
the makeup artist there, of course, is the one that gets noted for the Wolfman all the time, but Jack Pierce.
Yeah.
He did also the Henry Hall makeup. Which is kind of interesting because obviously the next film I would go to is The Wolfman of 1941. But it's nice to see they actually did something pretty cool, and you can see how he kind of worked it out. He went balls wild in The Wolfman a little bit more so than in Werewolf of London. Jack Pierce did. But Jack Pierce, they actually did a really good transformation. I mean, it's obviously freeze frame, stop frame, matte shots.
Yeah.
But he did it as he moved through this corridor, so the shadows were moving and he was moving, and it looked very nice. I liked it for that. Not so much as like the head on the pillow shots like the Wolfman.
Yeah.
Like those kind of freeze frames. But
that was a pretty ingenious way to do the transformation, I gotta say. Like back then when they didn't really have special effects per se in movies, you really did have to rely on camera tricks and stuff like that to really make it work well. Yeah.
And that's what I liked about it. And you can see some of that in well, actually half of it's pretty funny. They'd even do those little nuances of in and out camera tricks that make it really nice. Even in the one we'll talk about later that's very new, does a little bit of a surprise like that. Everything's not in your face. Yeah. You see a lot of that in the Paul Naschy films where, he'll turn around, camera shot, turn back, more change happens, this and that, fall down, get back up.
Yeah.
Those are nice. Let's see, what are we going to go down next? This horrible road we just started traveling. Let's go, we're not going to go chronologically anymore because I just got bored of that.
All right.
But let's say we got the Wolfman down. The Wolfman, Lon Chaney Jr., 1941.
Yep.
Jack Pierce. It's an iconic. Claude Rains, who also played the Invisible Man. It's one of the best films that I know from that era that I like. I just like the acting. I like the nuance. I like the cliche almost now because everything has the Universal monster trademark. There's how misty can we get this forest?
Yeah.
There's no forest in the world with this much mist, but we're gonna do it. And every tree is dead, no matter what. And I love it. It's pretty good. Maria Opitskaya played a great gypsy. I mean, everything kind of worked for me.
Yeah.
What did you think about it?
Oh, I really like it. It's undoubtedly a classic. It's amazing. It only runs like 70 minutes, but so it's pretty nonstop. Like it's not a boring film at all. It's like it really just gets from point A to point B really quickly. And I mean, the special effects for the time are top notch, and they still look good today, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, I really like it. I can't say I'm necessarily a big fan of the werewolf movies that would follow it, like some of the other Universal werewolf films. I think are kind of lesser. Like there's the one that comes to mind right away is Werewolf meets Frankenstein's
Frankenstein
monster.
Versus the werewolf. Meets the Wolfman. Yep. That's also preceded by another actual pretty good film. This one would definitely be able to check out is House of Dracula.
Okay.
That one is actually pretty interesting, and you actually get it. They call it House of Dracula, which is really interesting, but really Dracula's in it for about 3 seconds. and he dies in sunlight, and it's actually, which is really actually fun because it's the only time I saw John Carradine play Dracula.
Oh, okay. I've heard of that film. Yeah.
Yeah, he has a beautiful mustache, and
Well,
unfortunately,
the original Dracula did have a mustache in the book.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's got a hell of a mustache, and unfortunately he dies in sunlight. He's trying to get back his coffin because basically, well, here's the thing: is it's got Lon Chaney playing the Wolfman. It's got Dracula in it for a while. You got to see John Carradine do his stuff. And Boris Karloff is actually a mad doctor that he's an escaped lunatic.
Mm-hmm.
And you have Glenn Strange playing the monster.
Okay.
So you have a very good cast, a very good solid cast of people acting, and you have just good old Universal special effects. Anytime they pull out their Frankenstein wardrobe and their special effects machines with the lightning and the bolts and this, I always just sit back and I'm 10 again watching it.
Yeah. The one Dracula meets the Wolfman or whatever played the monster in that one, or not Dracula, Frankenstein and the Wolfman.
I think that the
wasn't it?
I want to say that was Karloff again playing Dracula.
It was either Karloff or Lugosi. One or the other was playing it.
Or was that Lugosi in that one?
Might have been, but there was a mistake in that film. The script originally called for the monster to be blind, and so but they sort of cut out that explanation in the actual film. But he still played the monster as blind, so you see it running around with brain damage and blind with its arms stretched out. Definitely a lot different than the monster from the original Frankenstein.
And I actually had a different outfit on too. It had more like a big fur outfit on.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the different ones. It's interesting though because I remember.
Or was that Bride of Frankenstein? I can't remember now because they all sort of meld together with me because I think of Bride of Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein isn't even in it for more than like a couple minutes at the most.
And there's also Ghost of Frankenstein too, where Lon Chaney plays the creature.
Yeah.
So there's so many alterations of that film. It's unbelievable. Or the monster anyway.
Yeah.
Lon Chaney's the only one who actually played every single monster.
Okay.
He played every monster in the Universal category at some point in time, which is actually pretty interesting. The lumbering Hulk thing works out pretty well for him. And if you like Lon Chaney, there's a film he did previous to this called Man-Made Monster.
Oh yeah.
That's actually, I haven't been able to find it yet, but I'm trying to look for it to buy. But that was his first film where he played I think it was for Universal, Man-Made Monster. And if you really like Lon Chaney and you like the old TV serials, he actually plays in a show called The Undersea Kingdom. And it's really great. And the good guys hail like they're Hitler. So the good guys hail with one. This is ridiculous. The good guys hail with one arm, and the bad guys hail with two arms.
Oh well, there you can tell the difference.
Put your damn hand down. You're a bad guy, aren't you? I could tell.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. And Lon Chaney plays one of the chief assistant bad guy, rough 'em up kind of guys. Captain, one of the captain of the guards. He plays that role. You can see a lot of him because he used to be a stage stuntman. And he did a lot of stunts, so that's why he was good for that role.
Right on. So we'll get back to werewolves here. We kind of diverged from it quite a bit.
You have to do the have to talk about the Chaney and all its little Universal goodnesses.
Well, we'll get to another one on your list here.
Yep, let's kick right up to Curse of the Werewolf. Let's go right up to 1981. Curse of the Werewolf. It was written off the novel A Werewolf in Paris, which I've never read that, but I'd have to assume it's loosely based on the kind of the Jeu Vidon. Maybe he got the inspiration to write it because of that.
Yeah.
But the Curse of the Werewolf with Oliver Reed, I guess it was directed by Terence Fisher. And
so you're thinking of the 1961 Curse of the Werewolf.
What do I keep on saying?
You said 81.
81, sorry, 1961.
Yeah.
Curse of the Werewolf, and the makeup artist then for him, because obviously the beasts are the things that should be more recognized. The guy who created that was Roy Aston.
Okay. And this is the Hammer
The Hammer.
werewolf film.
Yes.
I think it's the only one they didn't they? Did they only do
The
this
Hammer,
one?
yeah, because Amicus did 2 other ones, but that were Hammer-esque, but weren't Hammer films.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was The Beast Must Die
Yep.
and Legend of the Werewolf.
Yeah, yeah.
Right then, I skipped over a little decade here, and I'll want to go back to it quick.
Okay.
Sam Katzman, he's a little bit of a known actor. I think he was in The Giant Claw, things like that.
Oh, yeah.
And in 1956, he did The Werewolf, which was an interesting film based off of radioactivity.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, he got some experimental shots to try to bring out the beast in people and stuff like that the doctors were working on, trying to make money for the government, all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what turned him eventually into the werewolf.
Oh.
And he would go in and out of it, just like in another film from the 50s. I do believe it was the 50s, which was I Was a Teenage Werewolf.
Yeah, 57. Michael Landon.
Michael Landon, which used the rage control.
Yeah, it was hypnotherapy or something, wasn't it?
Hypnotherapy, rage control, and every time he heard the sound of a loud bell, he would transform. Because good thing he was in school, because when you're supposed to leave, they used to ring, I don't know, what was it called? A bell. That would be it. So, yeah, he's killing cheerleaders left and right. It's a good time.
Yeah, I think that was one of the first movies to feature a Playboy playmate as a female victim in a horror movie too.
She was the one in the gymnasium.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep, doing lewd things.
Yeah, lewd things.
Bending and contorting.
Those tight, revealing clothes. Yeah.
Oh.
For 1950s anyway, I guess.
You leotard wearing minx.
Yeah.
Indeed. There was also another one of the same title, but it was more of a brainwashing kind of thing. It was actually called She-Wolf of London. I thought I'd mention that quick, too.
Yeah, okay.
But it was more of a woman. They were trying to drive her insane by seeing if she would fall victim to the idea she was a werewolf so they could lock her up.
Okay.
Just a little bit after the Universal craze went through, there was a resurgent, and out came Return of the Werewolf.
Okay.
Return of the Vampire,
Oh.
which featured Bela Lugosi as Dracula.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe, and a very interesting, more of a schlocky version of what Dracula would be. I think. I think the film doesn't really capture the original Dracula very well, but it's pretty interesting that the werewolf in that one is another speaking werewolf.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he speaks the whole way through the film. I thought it was pretty interesting. He had more of a, if you look at the Sam Katzman werewolf, it's a little bit more along on those styles of like just a short-faced, big fang, spiky eared kind of a interesting looking werewolf. It's pretty interesting. Let's see, going through it some more, unless you want to stop me and work on something else.
No, keep going.
I don't want to jump into the 80s already, but
All right.
I might have to. This might get crazy. I want to save some of the Nash stuff for just a little run through.
Yeah.
You know, things like that. So it goes through. 2 films came out after that in the 70s. It was Moon of the Wolf and Scream of the Werewolf.
I watched Moon of the Wolf this past week. Yeah.
I believe the one is more of like a Louisianan werewolf. It was actually based off in Louisiana, and then it's a traditional werewolf movie. You know, some guy gets bit, all of a sudden no one believes him, and boom, he's a werewolf. And then the other one actually is a mistaken identity slasher.
Yeah.
Which a guy is using a German Shepherd he trained to kill to do his crimes, which is actually pretty interesting.
I found both those movies. They sort of feel like Charles Pierce films.
Mm-hmm. A little bit.
Yeah, they sort of remind me of that same sort of ideas, like the Boggy Creek and Town That Dreaded Sundown, just the way they're kind of shot and everything and the way they're acted.
Yeah, we get into a very fun one. There's 3 in a row that I'll talk about. They were from the 70s, when everyone was on too many drugs to worry about making a movie. Werewolf on Wheels. Werewolf on Wheels. That's a pretty interesting one. Biker gangs going and doing what biker gangs do. And run into a pack of satanic worshipers. They do a couple curses, get get them really drunked up, and transform them into werewolves
Yeah.
on wheels. So you can kind of you can see where that's going. Biker gang with werewolves, which is pretty interesting. Children of the Full Moon, which is actually really not that bad of a movie. A bunch of a British couple goes on holiday, what the Americans like to call a vacation, and they actually go and end up running into a pack of a house full of motherless children. Being sought after by in Somerset, and getting sought after by a woman, and a mysterious man that's supposed to own the place that nobody knows. During their, because for some reason, even if you're, lost, stranded, and worried about your car, you still have sex randomly in a strange person's home. While that is trying to go on, the man gets knocked out basically, and woman ravaged by something. No one knows what. Turns out she's impregnated by the father werewolf, and is drawn back to the house, dying from pregnancy. And of course, the man trying to rescue her gets he gets chopped up by an axe by a werewolf, because he doesn't have teeth or claws or anything like that, but he's got an axe, so he's good. But it's pretty interesting. It's actually not that bad. It's actually available if you can find it on VHS. I don't know if it ever had a DVD release, but you could find it on Elvira's Thriller video. So if you actually can find it, it's pretty good. And actually, owning those Thriller video things are actually pretty cool. I want to get more of them, but they're kind of expensive.
Oh yeah.
For collectors and stuff like that. Werewolf of Washington, Dean Stockwell.
Yeah.
Another Elvira. That's on DVD though. An Elvira movie macabre classic.
Mm-hmm. You can see it. I think we mentioned this before in a previous episode. You can see it at Shout Factory. They got their sort of semi Netflix service up and running now, where they feature some of the stuff in their catalog, and it's all free, and it works just as good or better than Netflix. They've got a buttload of the Elvira ones, and they got Werewolf of Washington there. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, and then if you see it on DVD, it's with a Doomsday Machine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. There's another one. This one is a really great if you like Rollins and Jean Rollins and Jess Franco films. Those kind of like why are you showing all this bush and nudity? Well, what do you mean why? That's the answer. Well, then watch this one. It's the Werewolf Woman.
Basically. Oh yeah.
Just anger and rape and guilt and this and this and this, and she just, for some reason, because of just the craziness and some little satanic ritual, she turns into a werewolf, and not a good one either.
No.
Basically, she turns into something where she has a couple bits of Q-tips or whatever, or cotton balls, like glued to her arms, and she's completely naked with like this fake muzzle strapped to her nose.
Yeah, they weren't.
And it works perfectly fine for me. I don't know why.
Yeah, those were. I watched that one as well. Although the version on YouTube that I watched was all in Italian. But it's not like you needed the dialogue to get what they were trying to do.
You weren't missing that much stuff. And then the one that I was going to talk about, the Amicus release, which has Peter Cushing's in it, and any film with Peter Cushing is definitely worth to sit down and watch. Is Legend of the Werewolf. Yeah. Basically, a boy that was taken into the wild. He was raised by wolves, that kind of idea.
Yeah.
And for some reason, that changed his metabolism, mentality, this and this, where he could transform when he gets upset into a werewolf. I don't know how that would ever work, but you're not supposed to worry about those kind of things. But it had that Romulus and Remus vibe, where the two boys were taken in and suppled by a she-wolf. So that was pretty interesting.
That's got those POV attack shots where it's all red, right?
Where it's all first person.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Let me just kick it right back up, since I know you don't want to spend too much time. We're going to kick it all the way up to my year of birth, 81. And we're going to go right over to The Howling. Joe Dante directed The Howling, based off the novel by Gary Bernard. Loosely based, very loosely based. They basically said, okay, I can't remember who wrote the original screenplay, but basically they just copied the novel word for word almost. And the Joe Dante was like, okay, a bunch of rape scenes and this, and then, okay, we're gonna do something different. And so they did. They did film rape scenes. They did film like all these different things where a girl gets a plunger rubbed into her while guys are holding her down, but they just never put it into the shot really. They put very little bits of that, and they used it as a film that Eddie Quist turned on when they were in the film booth.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, they shot those films to try to match the original screenplay, and they're like, this is ridiculous. Screw this. Put your clothes back on. and then they actually used just that little snippet of stuff they used in the film, though, in the snuff film scene, in the snuff box, watching the dirty films.
Yeah.
So that was a great storyline, I think, personally, for a werewolf film. Great transformations. So probably it is my favorite werewolf film.
All right.
So,
yeah, that was a good year for werewolf films. It was a good year for slasher films too. It's like both crazes sort of happened at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, Halloween 2, Friday the 13th, Part 2 with Jason came out in 1981, but then you have the Beast Within, which is not a werewolf, but it's got that kind of monster transformation vibe going on to it. A couple different books were released that year. The Werewolf by Night thing was going, the comic book. And then you had American Werewolf in London with John Landis and the special effects artist Rick Baker, which modeled the werewolf after his dog Oscar. Irish Wolfhound, which was pretty interesting. That came out in 1981. Another great film, probably in my top 5 great films of werewolves.
Yep.
And then, of course, The Howling in 1981 as well. I have a VHS. I have 2 different VHSs. One says 1980, but the original VHS that I have, that from the original release of it, says 1981 on it, so I'm going to have to go with that one.
Yeah, I think 1981 is the actual date. So
yeah, so the same year, a Nashe film, I think it was Curse of the Devil, that actually came out in 1981 as well. So that was another werewolf film in the same year.
I've actually got his list of films right here in front of me. Curse of the Devil. No, I don't see that. Return of the Wolf Man, which is also known as Night of the Werewolf and the Craving.
Night of the Werewolf. The Craving, yeah. I have that on VHS.
Yeah. And also in 82, he had Goodnight, Mr. Monster.
Okay. So he just skipped that one. One that came out in 1980, another one is called Full Moon High, which is a suave, debonair werewolf Italian boy trying to live life in his crazy, mixed-up high school.
I've never seen that one.
I don't think you want to. Honestly. I don't think you want to. But that was enough talking about that one.
Yeah.
I think this is 1982, not 1981, but Wolf.
Wolfen.
You have to check me on that one.
Yeah, I'll just do a quick check here. Wolfen.
And was it Albert Finn? Or something?
Yeah. Albert Finney, yeah. Wolfen 81, yeah.
81, so that one came out in 81 as well, so there you go.
Yeah.
Knew there was another.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we were talking before, the later sequels of The Howling, Part 4, the original Nightmare.
Yeah.
It plays closer to the original screenplay, which plays closer to the actual novel, which is different than The Howling Part 1. And same thing with Wolfen. The novel is far different from the actual movie.
Yeah.
And the novel actually would be a great film if you could get someone to pull it off correctly, because those beasts were very beast-like, if you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, they were more the actual just large wolf version of a werewolf. I guess essentially you could call them skinwalkers or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
basically, Yenda Loshis, the Navajo skinwalker idea. And, that's exactly what they would have been, more tribe-like original inhabitants of North America.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, it's still a really good movie. You're right, the book's way better, though. As far as The Howling Part 4, that's essentially a remake of Part 1, and it tries to stick to the original book a little bit more. I guess they even were originally going to imply that the main character was raped in that one, but they never really get around to it. They just sort of cut that out of the movie again.
Yeah. Overall, they're not bad movies. I know that you appreciate Howling 2 quite a bit. Christopher Lee, Sybil Danning, always naked, happy man.
Yeah, I mean, that movie knew exactly what its audience was, especially if you stay right to the end credits. You just see exactly what this whole movie could have been.
Over and over again. Rip the top off. Rip the top off. Rip the top off. I'm like, wow, this is probably the best film ever made.
It's so blatant. It's just
But
so blatant.
if you do like enjoy watching Sybil Danning being Sybil Danning, there's I think the girl it's either Chained Heat or Women in Chains. She's in that one with Linda Blair, I think.
Mhm.
And
She's
you get to
also
see both of them, dude.
she's also got a bit part in the old Richard Burton film Bluebeard for
Ah.
as a hooker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she's in a slasher film, which is a kind of a slasher film. It's called They're Playing with Fire.
Oh yeah. I've seen that. Yep.
And she is very good looking in that one and
Mhm.
very naked. So, hey, I love it. One film that I skipped over that might have been out just around this time. It's a fun film. It's not a horror film, but it is a werewolf film, and I do like it. I still do. I even have the cartoon version of it, but it's Teen Wolf. Michael J. Fox, Teen Wolf 1, and Teen Wolf 2, which is not Michael J. Fox, but it's still a good film. So those are good ones. And you get to see, in part 2, you get to see Gomez Adams as the principal, which is great.
Oh really? Oh cool.
Yeah.
John Aston or whatever his name is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Also in '85, of course, Silver Bullet. That same year as Howling 2.
Okay. Yep. Because I was gonna say Silver Bullet, based off Stephen King's Cycle of the Werewolf, which is a small but very good book with amazing.
Oh yeah,
art.
What's his face who does the art in that? He's just great. He also did the art for the graphic novel version of Creepshow.
Okay.
Which I still have somewhere around here.
Yeah, I guess the director for Silver Bullet, which I never actually knew this, I just saw it a couple days ago or today, I can't remember when I wrote this down, was Daniel Addis. And the special effects makeup man for that one, which I think the werewolf is great. It's just a very big, stocky, dark werewolf, bipedal, big snout, love it. Love it all day. Beats the living crap out of the guy with a baseball bat. Love it. Yeah. I thought very, very good film. And the man who plays, and I don't know his name, and it just blanked out. The man who plays the Reverend is
Everett McGill.
Everett McGill. People Under the Stairs, and he also played in the We Are Our Fellow Americans and things like that. He's just scary.
Yeah, he was also in Twin Peaks.
Twin Peaks. And he also plays as a special guest appearance, and this is werewolf related, in the 1987 TV series Werewolf with John J. York and Chuck Connors. He played a boxer on the run in one of the episodes, and that's the thing I like about watching that series of shows, because now and again you'll notice people that were in werewolf movies.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was the series where the guy's a werewolf and he's got the pentagram or whatever on his hand.
He's got the pentagram on his hand, and every time he gets right before he changes, the pentagram starts bleeding.
Yeah, and then he does the typical 80s, early 90s TV show format where he wanders around saving people and stuff. It's just like Kung Fu.
I always say he's the werewolf Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, Incredible Hulk followed the same formula as Kung Fu.
Exactly, and it works. It does. If they would have just stayed on par a little bit more to the actual storyline and didn't do so many, he's going to save this person randomly and this person randomly. Honestly, it could have started and closed with an end episode, and it's actually a pretty solid series. And if you're from the that time period, you're going to appreciate it because it's totally 80s all the time.
You know what? I kind of wish we had a similar series here in Canada, The Littlest Hobo. I kind of wish The Littlest Hobo was a fucking werewolf. That would have made that show much more interesting.
Everything makes everything more interesting if you were a werewolf.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Flying Nun would have been awesome if she was a werewolf, too.
Yeah.
But there is a female werewolf series. It only ran for about a season, maybe I don't even want to say 2 seasons, but it was She-Wolf of London. They finally got a DVD release of it. Pretty great. Kate Hodge and Neil Dixon. Kate Hodge, for your horror movie guys out there, was actually the girl in Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 3.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep. So check that out. Now we're getting into like the 80s, 90s area, which is pretty fun. There's a lot of different werewolf movies coming out in this time period. We were talking about a couple of them already. Going to get into, just moving on, we're going to get into the shittiest werewolf movie I think I've ever seen in my life. Now you have to watch this one, but don't watch it just by itself. Watch it with friends. So watch it on Mystery Science Theater 3000 if you can get a chance. It's called Werewolf.
Okay.
1993, I think it came out, Werewolf, or 1996. All I know is not good, but you can watch it on Mystery Science Theater 3000, and just have fun with everybody while you do it, because you can hang out with Crow and everybody.
That one might be on the Shout Factory site too, because they've got a ton of the Mystery Science Theater on there as well.
One from the 80s that I missed. I actually have the soundtrack, Laserdiscs. I have the whole thing for it. It's a very odd storybook style movie, and it can get a little confusing. It's more of the lonely traveler coming in from the night kind of storybook werewolf. It's called Company of Wolves. It's got Angela Lansbury in it from 1984, and it was produced. It was actually directed by Neil Jordan. He did The Crying Game and Interview with a Vampire.
Yeah, I remember. I've never watched that one, but I always remember seeing the it had one of the best VHS covers I've ever seen. It had the little Red Riding Hood kind of thing going on the cover, but the woman's mouth was opening, and you could see this wolf snout coming out.
Oh, the boy! Yeah, it's actually a guy. It's actually a guy's mouth, and the
go.
Wolf's coming out of his mouth. Yep. Like he peels the wolf comes out and peels the human skin off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's pretty cool. I've never even spun the LP, but I have it because I've watched the movie. Another one, a great one from the 90s that is and it's got John Saxon in it, so you have to watch it because it's John Saxon. It's called My Mom's a Werewolf.
Oh yeah.
Real good fun 80s. It's either 80s or early 90s. It's not good, but it's good, if you know what I mean. I don't know how to describe that other than it's not good, but it's good. I think it was actually Ed Wood who did this one, so we're going to get into Ed Wood territory.
Okay.
Orgy of the Dead.
Oh, yeah, Orgy of the Dead, that's it.
Okay, you already know it. So basically, if anyone hasn't watched it, it's strip teases in the middle of bad acting and bad costumes.
Oh, God, is it ever terrible in that regard?
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's surprisingly easy to fap to. Other than that, there's not too much else going on at the same time. Like I said, this isn't I'm not trying to make a Stout and Porter book, so this isn't the be-all to end-all. This isn't the ultimate guide to werewolf movie list that I'm saying right now. There's another one that came out in the 90s. I don't know how to describe it. I don't care if she was covered with hair. I'd do it in a second. There is it's called Blood Moon, and it's a strange circus-like environment. It's got Tim Curry in it. He's the ringmaster.
Oh, really?
And it's got this girl that basically, they put fake teeth in her and stuff because she's got hypertrichnosis.
Mm-hmm.
And like they put fake claws on her and stuff like that, and they pretend her to be the wolf girl. But at some point in time, something does come out of her for some reason, and then she actually does turn into a vicious killer.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So it's pretty interesting, and it's got Tim Curry in it, so it's at least worth a watch.
Yeah.
And it's got a girl that's basically naked in a cage going, rawr. I'm like, okay, I can get behind that.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. After that, you get into more of the 2000s. There's I noticed, like, it kind of, you have movies like in the 90s, 93's Full Eclipse, where it's like a tactical government werewolf thing. Project Metal Beast with Lance Hendrickson, about the same time period. Biomechanical Werewolf, which is actually a pretty cool, weird movie. I don't know how to describe it. If you like all the films Alien tried to spawn by accident. Yeah. If you like those films, you'll like Project Metal Beast. Stuff like that. If you can actually sit through Extro 2 and Metamorphosis, and if you can sit through those, you can watch Project Metal Beast. But Full Eclipse is a weird one. It's got basically this SWAT team of mercenaries that are also werewolves. Why bother being a mercenary if you can always just turn into a werewolf? I don't know, but
yeah, you think they'd just keep them in a cage and drop them in the area?
But basically, what's going on is while they're being like that, they're trying to actually take over the world a little bit, which I wouldn't know how a small group of werewolves would take over the world that quick. But basically, the one guy who's a werewolf has to stop all the other bad guys that are werewolves, and it's a fight 'em up, shoot 'em up werewolf.
So it's a high concept sort of movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's a high concept with low expectations.
Did you ever see Wolf with Jack Nicholson?
Jack Nicholson, Wolf, 1995, right?
94.
94. Okay, yep, I have that on Laserdisc.
Yeah, what did you think of that?
I didn't like it. I thought it was interesting but boring film, and I like the fact that when Jack Nicholson doesn't shave for a week, that's the werewolf costume.
Yeah, it's a real slow film, because he just sort of gradually starts changing into a werewolf, every little while, and essentially it's one of those films that was sort of taking advantage of Jack Nicholson playing Jack Nicholson, really.
Yeah, they get a load of me. Yeah. If you thought Witches of Eastwick was a slow moving film, you'll be amazed how slow this moves.
Yeah.
But if you like Witches of Eastwick, if you really like Jack Nicholson playing Jack Nicholson, it's a good film. It's not bad. It's not horrible. It's just one of those ones that, I really wish they would have just made him a troll, so I wouldn't have to buy it. Just make him a troll. Give him a pimple or something. There you go. Perfect. Don't call him a werewolf. But yeah, it's a werewolf film. It's just one of those ones I'm fucking Jack Nicholson. You're not putting all that shit on me. Oh, okay. That's what I think basically the dialogue went. I'm Jack Nicholson. I'll play golf all day. Leave me alone. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, we were talking, I told him about the Japanese horror film, which is Samurai Werewolf, basically. It's called Kibakichi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I watched some of that.
And I couldn't see Jack Nicholson letting them make him look like that.
No, he would. I think he probably had it written to his contract after fucking Batman that he was no longer gonna get extensive makeup done.
Exactly. Yes, and I actually forgot to put that one on my list, so thanks for bringing that up. Another Laserdisc that I have, which is I have a hard time describing what this creature is. It's called Mom.
Mom.
Yes, it's almost like a demon. It's kind of like a werewolf. It's hard to describe, but basically this stranger just comes in and attacks dear old Mom, and the next thing you know, she's eating homeless guys.
Oh, okay.
And Mom, what are you doing? It's pretty fun. So you can check it out. Simple term, Mom. It's got a guy who's ugly as the day is long, as the main bad guy, and I can never remember what his name is. But I'm trying to remember what his name is, but I just can't seem to recall what it is. If I try to do anything now, my computer, I'm sure, will freeze up, so I'm not going to even try.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I see the sort of werewolf likeness of the.
Yes.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Byron James.
Byron James, ugly as the day is long.
Yeah, who was
got no chin. He's no chin. It's just not there.
He was like the first replicant you see in Blade Runner there, the one that was getting tested to be a replicant or whatever.
He was also in a interesting Tales from the Crypt episode where he was a lumberjack owner. He was a owner of a lumberjack company.
Oh yeah.
And a wife that he was very jealous about people having sex with. Apparently they don't like that sort of thing. I remember that episode. He was a very they killed a lot of guys with axes and stuff, and then they killed him instead. Speaking of Tales from the Crypt, there's actually 2 episodes of Tales from the Crypt.
Okay.
With werewolves. One where it's a very cliche, kind of hokey, good for the kids, which is weird because it's Tales from the Crypt. But it's one where two people adopt a boy, and they nonstop feed him with sweet candies, cakes and stuff like that. And one night they come to get him, and turns out they're vampires. And they want his sweet blood. So he's he's trying to run away, and he end up breaking into the yard at night. Turns out it's a full moon. Turns out he's a werewolf, and then he kills the 2 vampire people.
Yeah.
So that's a nice little kiddie movie. I mean, it's pretty kiddie. Another good one, which is actually has the lady. I forget how hot she actually can be, but the lady from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation stuff with the mom.
Beverly D'Angelo.
Yeah, she's actually pretty hot.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
keep forgetting that she's that hot, but she's in that one. And actually, he played James Bond, and he was also in Timothy Dalton. It's Timothy Dalton and Beverly D'Angelo in the Werewolf Crescendo, which is actually a pretty interesting. No real tits or anything like that, which is really sad because she is pretty good looking.
Yeah.
But very good. So Tales of the Crypt even got into the werewolf spirit, which is nice to see. One film that I'm just going to go right back quick and just say is Monster Squad.
Oh yeah, Monster Squad.
You can't go wrong with Monster Squad. It's like a kids movie, but for teenagers. I don't know how to describe it. It's not exactly kiddie.
Yeah, it's a bit of a hybrid because I mean it's sort of got that Goonies thing going on. With the kid protagonist and the friendly Frankenstein's monster and all that shit, and then you got that werewolf ripping people to shreds.
Mm-hmm.
You got that gory part where the werewolf is blown to pieces and then the pieces come back together.
And you kick him right in the nards.
Yeah, and the werewolf's got nards. And it also has it feels like a kiddie movie, but then you have the scene where you see Dracula open up his closet door or whatever, and he's got like 3 young teenage girls ready to feast on and shit.
Exactly, and the coolest Gill Man costume ever.
Oh yeah, definitely the badass.
If they could make if they could redo Creature from the Black Lagoon, they need to get a hold of that costume.
Yeah, I mean because they didn't do anything with him in the film. He just took like a shotgun to the fucking chest and died.
Yeah. He came out of the sewer, grabbed people by the head, crushed it once, and then got shot and then dead.
Yeah, and the only other monster they treated like more of a bitch in that film was the fucking mummy.
Yeah, they did treat him pretty bad.
Yeah.
And they should.
Yeah.
Fuck. Oops. I went through the whole time without swearing once, and there it goes. I said the F word. But yeah, it's a real fun film, and actually it's pretty badass, honestly.
Yeah, it is. I really enjoy it. It's one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm. Now we're getting into more of the whatever you kids like to call new films. Right before we jump into that, we're going to go with Bad Moon.
Yeah, I still haven't watched that one, but
1996. It was directed by Eric Reed,
mm-hmm.
and he actually did Hitchhiker.
Okay.
And Body Parts.
Oh yeah, okay.
I remember, which is actually thinking about those two films, I can see his handiwork in Bad Moon, actually. Bad Moon is actually based off a novel called Thor. Thor is actually the name of the dog in the film. So
that's one because maybe I have seen this one. The guy he comes visits his sister.
Yeah, he comes and visits his sister after being in an Amazonian jungle where there was a werewolf attack, and basically just blew the werewolf's head off with a shotgun.
Yeah. And the dog knows he's a werewolf.
Yeah, the dog knows. Yeah. And it keeps on, the guy keeps on being an antagonist the whole time and starts peeing on the dog's stuff.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? It's pretty good, and it's actually and that's actually, I think, is the same kid who played Dennis the Menace. Now we're getting into, actually, Blood Moon was from 2001, the one with Tim Curry. So I just thought I'd let you know there. So we're into the 2000s now. You're going to have to help me a little bit with some of these because I actually haven't watched them. I own them, and I haven't watched them. And if I have watched them, I did pay attention. One that I know that we've talked about before, where he's more like a smart-ass werewolf, is Big Bad Wolf.
Yeah, 2006, yeah.
2006.
That one's not so much a werewolf movie as it is more of putting a werewolf in the sort of Freddy Krueger role, where he's making puns and joking about killing people and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So in that regards, if you're going into it for a real authentic werewolf movie, it's not really that. It's more like just a slasher movie with a werewolf in it.
The one movie that I can say that if you guys want more after you watch Big Bad Wolf, if you want more of a traditional werewolf movie, but you don't mind the look of that werewolf, let's just say, you could watch a film called Beast of Bray Road.
Okay.
That one is, let's just call it lied. Let's poetic license or whatever, literary license. It's there's a book out you can buy called Beast of Bray Road by Linda Godfrey. It's not a work of fiction, it's a work of nonfiction. She's a publicist. She was a journalist, and she publicizes, or she was researching these sightings of this bipedal, strange wolf-like creatures that they get seen near Elkhorn, Wisconsin, and surrounding areas. So she's like basically been compiling these weird stories from anyone from game officials to rednecks, and you know what rednecks do, and things like that. And she wrote a book about it, Beast of Bray Road. They took that and made a movie about it. Just made it a giant werewolf that kills everybody. So,
I actually watched that. I think I watched that on YouTube, actually.
And they even play it now and again. I guess they play it on Sci-Fi, which I don't even know how you spell sci-fi anymore. SYFY, which is just
fucking
silly. Sci-fi. Sci-fi. You got a couple different ones coming out. If you guys, I'm sure a lot of you guys out there that listen to this appreciate the Friday the 13th series. Part 7 brought Kane Hodder into the play as Jason. Well, Kane Hodder is also in a werewolf movie, and it's called Dark Wolf. Came out in 2003, and you get to see Kane Hodder basically as Kane Hodder at a certain stint in the movie, and he says one line in the whole movie. Technically, you could call it 2 lines. Where's the bitch? The girl from the diner. That's it. You're done. So he still spoke more than Jason did.
Yeah.
So, wean him into it slow.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Dark Wolf, you get to see just a more schlocky, but just don't talk too much, beat the crap out of everybody, and run away from a big werewolf kind of a film.
Yeah. Okay.
The thing is, a lot of these films, Fullest Clips, Dark Wolf, a lot of these things, even Dog Soldiers at times, things like that, Cursed, they lose a little bit of what I consider makes a good werewolf movie, which is the unknown, the suspense, the quiet, the sneaky. You lose a little bit of that nuance that some of these great films did have in them.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of that missing.
Yeah, I'll say that for Dog Soldiers, there's not a lot of suspense in that film. Like, it's pretty much a straight-up action film for the most part. Like, it pretty much gets right into it. Like, there's an open and kill, then there's a little bit of stuff of the soldiers, and then it just starts going into fucking werewolves hunting people down. And
yeah, I always like to say that it's like Predator with werewolves.
Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty good.
But it's a great film.
Oh, it is, yeah.
Yep.
There was another one made, I think it's the same guy who designed the werewolves in Dog Soldiers. It's called Wild Country from 2005.
Yep, Wild Country, which is a Scottish film. That's on my list. Yep. I have that film. I just actually never watched it.
Yeah, the werewolves in it are a bit different. They're more.
Yeah, I always thought they were a little bit more bear-like and bipedal or quadrupeds at some point in time.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. There's another horrible one. It's Eyes of the Werewolf. So if you want to watch some horror films, just go there. I'm not even going to talk about it. It's just horrible. Horrible. The Feeding. There's another horrible. There's another one called Huntress. Horrible. Just, I mean, there's a slew of these films out here that we're not going to talk about because there's just no point in taking the time. We did talk about Kibakichi. If you guys do enjoy those samurai films of fighting and the more there's a word for demons in Japanese myth. If you like those kind of things, and definitely check that one out because it's just filled with all this nuance that you won't find in other films.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I enjoyed it.
So just under that, we're kind of wrapping it up with me. Dog Soldiers. I just wanted you to talk about Dog Soldiers a little bit if you could. More so than we already did.
I love that film. It was like the freshest take I'd seen on in a werewolf film for quite a while. Granted, I haven't watched as many werewolf films as you did, so when I did first watch it, I wasn't expecting shit. I thought it was gonna suck. When I was watching, I was like, wow, they're really taking it serious. Like they're they're making these werewolves serious fucking badasses, like real scary monsters again. And I just love the way they look. I think they're my favorite film, Werewolf. Just how tall and bipedal they are, but then they still got the wolf face, you know?
They actually remind me of collies a little bit for some reason.
and I just like I like the soldiers too. I thought they were all pretty. There was a lot of good actors in there, like the guy who plays the squad leader or whatever is the third Doctor Who's son, Sean Petrie or whatever his name is. He's a really good actor.
I think Dog Soldiers just has that kind of vibe, almost like Ravenous. I know you guys who watch this show know about Ravenous. They did it already. Mm-hmm. You have a feeling for everyone in the group.
Yeah.
Everyone has an emotion, and everyone has a backstory, and everyone has a personality, and they're all individuals, and you get a chance to sit down and see who everyone is, and you actually remember who they are.
Yeah.
And you care when they get fucking killed. That's the thing that you miss with a lot of these other werewolf movies. Everyone's just a victim who gives a shit.
Yeah, the only throwaway characters are basically the opening two victims in the start of the film.
And everyone else actually has a real meat to them.
Yeah. But yeah, I really like that. It's probably my favorite werewolf film too, to some degree.
The only thing that I was thinking about, and I was just thinking about it a few days ago, when they got into the cabin and took everyone, he was told to secure the area because they're military guys. When you look in the basement,
yeah, you think they would.
You think they would have looked in the basement and saw all the hanging up people that were smoked and salted, and you'd think you would.
And well, wait, I think they stumbled upon the basement by mistake though, like just because it was concealed.
Really?
Yeah, it
was the trap. That's right, it was a trap door.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although it makes me think, considering the movie does have a lot in common with Night of the Living Dead, where you got all the people trapped in a house. You think they would have learned from that and done the same thing that they should have done in Night of the Living Dead and go upstairs.
Easy, Mr. Cooper.
Yeah.
You could just go in the basement.
Yeah, I mean, the joke of that movie was that Cooper, even though he was the bigoted asshole, he was actually
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like that. I think it would have been easier to defend the house up there. There would have been less entry points, and if any of the werewolves tried to come up the stairs, you could, either knock out the stairs or just.
And that's exactly what they did. They tried to climb up the side of the building, got into the thing, and then just shot them right out of the place.
Yeah.
I mean, hell of a good movie. Probably if you like werewolf movies, it's gonna be in your top 5.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know it's not maybe traditional or this or that or whatever, but out of films go, it's one of the ones that definitely just put into anybody's top 5 for horror movies.
Yeah, and like you were saying with the Universal werewolf films, where they almost always had that sort of creepy atmosphere to them with, the dead trees and the fog and shit. Like, this is out in, like, the middle of fucking nowhere. And, it is kind of creepy, like the idea of this maybe family of werewolves just sort of living out in the middle of nowhere and just hunting, travelers, hikers, and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So it was pretty good.
The only thing, I don't know if they ever actually thought they were going to do that or not, but when she said that they hunt as a pack somewhere safe, secure, and warm, and they looked out to the shed, they actually did the shot between her thighs. And I'm like, warm. Yeah, I got you. What? What were you saying? Warm? What? And I'm like, I wonder if they did that on purpose.
That might have been a nice little in joke. Yeah, you could have been.
Maybe I'm just a pervert. Either or.
I thought Cursed wasn't all that great.
Yeah, Cursed was pretty horrible. I've never seen a werewolf give the finger before.
Yeah, that was.
It was a bit of satire that I thought was unappreciated.
Yeah, and they sort of equated that one with like sexually transmitted diseases and stuff like that.
Basically the same thing as the Ginger Snap series. Only women can become werewolves. Okay, if only women can become werewolves, how is there one male werewolf? Okay, you just ruined that for me. And the thing, it just looks like a giant hairless rat. It doesn't look like a werewolf to me.
Yeah.
So the Ginger Snaps, I own Ginger Snaps 1, and I hated it, and I never bought any other ones. I don't know if you've probably... I know my friend Rich from Vancouver loves the Ginger Snap girls because...
They're both hot, yeah.
Yeah.
Catherine Isabel is smoking. But I like the first one okay. I actually appreciated the sort of different take on the whole werewolf myth, but part 2 just kind of sucked really bad. Like she's in a mental institution and she's taken like wolfsbane or something like that to hold back the werewolf disease, and she's seeing like a ghostly vision of her sister that she killed in the original, right? And then part 3 is just sort of a reboot of the series in a way because it goes back to like the 1800s or something with just 2 characters that look like the main 2 girls in the first film, and they're not. Yeah, and they're I guess part 3 is a little bit better, but yeah, I think Ginger Snap's the first one's the only one really worth owning if you want to own any from that series.
Yeah. The new ones that I know that are out right now is, here's 3 in a row. I want you to talk about them because 2 you might not have seen, but I know you saw the one. Werewolf, The Beast Among Us.
I watched that on Netflix.
Yeah, pretty interesting. You know, can't get past the breadth of characters that they have randomly.
Too many people, and it was
too many people.
You know what? I fell asleep halfway through it. I had to rewatch it, and it still kind of bored me quite a bit.
They're supposed to be in some kind of older time period, yet they have flamethrowers and stuff and
guns. Because they're all sort of Van Helsing type fucking werewolf hunters, you know, from the fucking Hugh Jackman Van Helsing movie where you know they have all these fucking contraptions and shit that they would never ever fucking have.
Yeah, and the horrible CGI Van Helsing movie that basically made the werewolf look like a retard the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a bad movie. I have the poster for that, the hand-drawn poster where the werewolf looks awesome, but in the film the werewolf looks like shit. But yeah, basically you're absolutely right. The werewolf, the Van Helsing characters from all over the world kind of combining together to fight this werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
And not doing a good job at it either.
No, they're a bunch of they're supposed to be these badass hunters, and most of them are just bitches. Like
bitches. Yeah. Now, going right on back to the same road, there's Red, Werewolf Hunter.
Okay, I haven't seen that.
So you should see it because her name is Red, so obviously she's got a red head, and that's good enough to watch.
Yeah, well.
Same thing is there's werewolves in the woods all over. There's actually it's actually not that bad of a movie. The werewolves are basically taking over towns and killing people.
Okay.
And it's a very modern setting. So they actually have to go and find these werewolves that are like held up in towns and stuff and kill them. And that's basically it's like a love story where like, oh, didn't actually tell my boyfriend or my fiance what I do or who we are, and then he finds out, and then blah 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 blah. You know, something. Look, I'm telling you, if I ever get with a girl and be like, by the way, I hunt werewolves, just tell me. Let's let it out.
Yeah, just let it out because, you know, that's not a secret you want to learn down the road when there's a werewolf banging on your fucking door.
What the hell? Well, this is what I do. Well, thanks for letting me know. Yeah. And the other one that I was going to let, is the one you talk about because I know you probably have a little bit more than I do, is Cabin in the Woods, which does have a werewolf in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's got every conceivable movie monster you can think of in it. I like it. I know the movie got sort of fell into that, it's overhyped bullshit, so you shouldn't watch it kind of thing. And I went into it with that sort of cloud over it, thinking, okay, I'm probably not going to like this. But it actually flips the entire sort of horror movie genre on its head, and it's more about us as horror movie fans and like how we watch horror movies and what we like in horror movies and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And the real big set piece in the film, of course, is when they go into the fucking underground facility that houses all these fucking monsters. And the whole idea is that these kids, they go to the cabin and it's a setup as a ritual to sacrifice to this some sort of Lovecraftian god. And basically what they do is they go down to the basement of the cabin and they choose from different items in the basement, and depending on what they choose, that brings whatever sort of monster to start picking them off and everything. And they always get picked off in sort of the stereotypical ways, like you get the jock, the nerd, the stoner, the slut, all those characters, and they sort of fill those roles in a ritual sort of sense.
Right.
And it was actually a very smartly written movie. I was actually genuinely impressed with it. I just wish there was more stuff in the facility down the bottom where you could see more of the monsters, because they are all CGI, so that's kind of for the most part, they're all CGI. So that kind of sucks, because they have a couple of big scenes where these monsters are all exploding out of like elevator doors and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a wreak havoc bedlam moment.
Mm-hmm. And I'd like to see like what's going on. Instead, it sort of reminded me of the Transformer films where you can't follow the action at all, because the Transformers are these big fucking messes of a machine that just take up the entire fucking screen and you can't see what's going on. But yeah, there's a werewolf in it. There's all kinds of other monsters in it. The werewolf, it just looks like a werewolf. It kind of looks like the more on the dog soldiers.
Yeah, it's basically like a good like play off the dog soldier style werewolf.
Yeah,
it's actually a pretty good werewolf overall.
Yeah. And like I said, it's a decent movie. It's actually worth watching. It's for horror film nerds, is what it is. So,
and Sigourney Weaver's in it, but she's not in her panties. But I'm sure she has panties on. But it'd be better if she did. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, she's always better when she's less restricted.
Exactly. Yep. So it's just a weird ending. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. It's kind of weird though. At the same time, it's like, look, if we don't do this, the world's gonna end. Well, fuck you. I don't care. Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
She's she's kind of making the wrong decision there.
Yeah. It's got a good play about how the generation we live now is completely selfish and it doesn't matter as long as they get their Gucci shoes. I don't care how many kids have to die.
Yeah,
like that kind of attitude. So,
but it is a fun movie. I wish they hadn't shown the big giant hand of the god thing that comes up and when just as it's starting to arrive to destroy the world. Because if it's H.P. Lovecraft kind of,
I want tentacles, damn it.
Yeah, if it's that sort of idea, it should be tentacles or
a claw, like bone claws coming up with big Cthulhu wings and tentacles. I want this shit going down.
Yeah. But so
oh my God, how do you stop it? And then Bruce Campbell will come out, and then it's really Bruce Campbell versus Cthulhu would be a great film.
They should do that before he gets too old.
Yep, that's true. Other than that, I got just there's a man, Paul Nache. He's a Spanish horror enthusiast. He was growing up in Spain, actually watching pirated films. The horror, you weren't actually, I guess, allowed to really watch horror films too much back then because of the fact it was coming from America, going through a very bad part in Spanish.
Well, that was
politics.
That was Franco Spain, wasn't it? Fascist Spain.
It was fascist Spain. So he was getting allowed to go to these screenings of the Universal films and stuff. And after that kind of dissolved, he was left into a Spain where there was no. You were allowed to do whatever you wanted now, but there was no horror genre. There was nothing, and he grew up, loving these films. So then he basically kind of trotted his own path and created the homage films to the greats of Universal Horror. So I mean, they're good. They're not well done. I don't know how to describe them to the conventional guys who let's Cabin in the Woods. I mean, if you want to watch that quality of movie, you're not going to go back and watch these and be like, oh wow, that's just as good as Jaws. I mean, it's not that. But
a lot of these ones have cheap sets, cheap effects, and he liberally peppers most of his films with a lot of gore and a lot of nudity.
And he realizes people are there for the blood, and he realizes Spanish chicks are kind of hot.
Yeah,
and I love that. and it's a pretty well done stuff. And he actually, the one time, if you like the Japanese stuff again, he actually goes to Japan and Beast of the Magic Sword and fights samurai ghosts and stuff, and it's pretty good. It's a pretty good film. Probably one of my favorite ones from him is Curse of the Devil, and there's one called you can get this on $1. Films for $1, those kind of things. It's Werewolf versus Vampire Woman.
Yeah, that's 1971, I think that one is.
1971, and you can't see a lot of times the film quality is pretty bad. I mean, but they had no money back then. I mean, that's just the way it was. But overall, I like the voiceovers. The English voiceovers are actually really well done. They're not stupid, if you know what I mean. It actually adds a nice little depth to the film. They do everything on the night of Walpurgis and stuff. If you get the more Euro German influence of the occultism in there, you can actually get a sense of. It's nice. They go to the crossroads, and I love the old occultism that Europe provides.
Yeah.
And you feel that in a lot of his films that he has. And he never does the stereotypical, ow, look, a werewolf. Oh, I'm bit. Oh, now I'm a werewolf. It's never like that. It's always they resurrect Satan to curse a wolf skull, and then the gypsy stabs him with the wolf skull. It's always like things like that turn him into the werewolf. So it's pre-sealed mocked kind of ideals.
Yeah. So I've only seen a couple of his werewolf films. I know you've probably seen almost all of them.
I've seen a good amount of them. I probably saw 8 of them, probably.
Yeah, because I've seen Werewolf versus Vampire Women. I have that on one of my cheap sets.
Yeah, there's actually it's Dr. Jekyll versus the Werewolf. Werewolf versus Yeti, which is also Night of the Howling Beast, is that one's title to it. It's a pretty good movie. Frankenstein's Bloody Terror, Dracula's Great Loves. No, he plays Dracula in that one. Beast of the Magic Sword. Trying to think of a couple different other ones. He's got about 6 or 7. Then
I saw one of his last ones, which wasn't very good.
Return of the Werewolf. Oh yeah,
Tomb of the Werewolf.
Tomb of the Werewolf is horrible in every sense of the term. I'm really glad there's a lot of very badly acting women that are perfectly fine to get naked, because that's the only good thing about that movie is the nudity. And honestly, they're not even that good looking.
Yeah, that has 80s sex comedy / scream queen Michelle Bauer, I think, as
the main girl.
Yeah. And by that time she was in her 40s or whatever. Yeah,
but that's all. I mean, that she actually is the best thing about that film.
Yeah, because she's actually a pretty good actress. So.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they try to make Nash seem a lot younger than he really is. Nash has a breadth of films, though. He can't. A lot of people can size him as the werewolf guy, Valdemar Daninsky, but he plays Panic Beats, House of Psychotic Women, Dracula's Great Love. There is another one called Fury the Wolfman that he does, where it's basically like science, trying to cure him, but harness his werewolfism and stuff like that. But there's a lot of different Nash films out there. Unfortunately, because of the fact he was going through a very small market, we don't ever get to see as many as he made, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
He even did a couple of giallos, but unfortunately, they're very few and far between to try to actually get to see. I've never got a chance to see. I know some people have, but I've never been able to actually see any of those giallo films. But I'm a big giallo fan too. I have grown an appreciation for those styles.
Yeah.
So Paul Nash is definitely one of the ones that a lot of people don't even know existed. But if you are a fan, you're a big fan.
Yeah. Anyone who's interested in Paul Nash, just look him up on Wikipedia. Paul Naschy, his last name. You'll see a pretty goddamn extensive rundown of his filmography. Like they give you the year it was released, directing. They generally tell you if it's in Spanish or not, or what language it's in. And they tell you about the ones that have never been shown in the U.S., basically run down alternate titles and everything. Like, it's pretty extensive. So
his son released a book after his death in 2009, cataloged book called, I think it's called Good Night, Mr. Lobo, or Good Night, Mr. Werewolf. And
I heard that's really good.
I have it, and it's a beautiful book. It's really well done. Beautiful shots of photo shoot shots and stuff from every single film that he has cataloged in there, and it just shows you the breadth of what he's done, and it's just like, wow.
I hear it's really good for even if you're not familiar with Nashe at all, and you're just a big fan of like Euro exploitation and horror cinema and stuff like that. I heard it's pretty good for that, just to get all the juicy details and things.
Yeah, and the thing about Nashe films that I like, obviously, maybe he directed them, maybe he didn't, maybe this or this for different film companies. They're all made in the same Chinese way, I like to say. And when I talk about Jackie Chan films, he always says, he's like, in America you get $300,000 to make $3 million or $30 million to make a movie. In Japan and China, we'll make 300 movies for that price.
Yeah.
Because it takes a little less than $1 million to make a movie in China, but you'll make one movie for $30 million, and that's how you can see they're almost Hammer. He always says he's a homage to Universal, but if you look at the filmography, I always say it's almost a homage to the Hammer kind of style, or the Amicus, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's very, very close. Yeah, a lot of those films from Italy and Spain, especially in that sort of era where they were really pumping out films all the time, they're basically exactly doing the same thing Shaw Brothers and Golden Harvest were doing in China, where they were just pumping out film after film using the same directors, cast, production company, everything, all just pumping out one film after another. Like as soon as they finished one, they'd be on another film. So
and don't delineate. Use the same. If it worked once, do it again. Just keep going, and then and they all have their own nuances. They all have their own qualities, and they're definitely something to check out. And if you like horror, if you like that, definitely check those films out, and the Golden Harvest films as well. Actually, I can't remember who made the one film that we should all check out, and I think Golden Harvest had a hand in it. I think it was that Legend of the Golden Vampire.
Oh, that was Shaw and Hammer.
It was Shaw and Hammer. Okay,
the seven golden vampires or whatever.
That's you have to check that out. That's a pretty fun film. It's not a werewolf film. I shouldn't even mention it, but it's a good film. Yeah,
it's the last Hammer vampire film. Before they started doing the lesbian vampire stuff. Yeah.
The only other one that I can say to wrap this episode up from my aspect before we start doing the bullshitting, which I think is the best part, is the remake of The Wolfman. Is basically you take a great film, you name it something, but the thing you named it after has three names in the film that is reminiscent of the old film, and everything else is completely different.
Yeah,
and it's a good film. It really is. I went into there expecting cheesy crap and overdone CGI bull crap, but it's actually a pretty well done film. It has nothing to do with the original Wolfman, and they should have named it something else except for a clickbait or whatever the hip term to say is. Something. Just use something everyone can see, know, and is simple, so that'll draw them in. They should have actually used a different title.
Yeah, I think that movie was plagued with production problems. I think they had a bunch of rewrites and shit like that going on. But as good actors Benicio del Toro and Anthony Hopkins are, they really played their parts weird, like just kind of weird choices for their acting. I think, which didn't quite work for me all that well. But the film overall, it's actually pretty decent. It's considering all the handicaps it had going against it. It's actually pretty good.
No, it is. It really is. And they have that werewolf doing things that, even though I know the werewolf's a big, werewolf. It messes people up with like one swipe. It cuts them in half and stuff. Like, wow, okay, that's a little overboard. I guess today's audience can only see people being blown up with just a sparkler. I don't know. Maybe that's their mentality anymore. They can't take anything that is just a simple. I don't know. It seemed a little overdone to me.
Yeah.
I like my steaks like I like my films raw. Raw.
Yeah, that might have even been like a last-minute decision for them. It was like, let's up these effects a bit because we're kind of weak on other areas in the film. So.
Right.
But yeah, so I guess we could probably wrap the episode up at least. We got
kind of started it with the Wolfman, ended it with the Wolfman a little
yeah,
bit, kind of.
full circle, like the cycle of the fucking moon or some shit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, that is pretty spooky. I gotta go. I gotta get out of here.
But
Anyway, it was really great to have me on here and to talk about some werewolf movies. They are my favorite genre of movie, I guess. The style, the monster, the myth, the lore, the legend, the whole deal. I hope I didn't talk too much. I hope it didn't.
Oh no. This was good. It was actually. I'm sure it'll be pretty educational for some of the people listening. It was definitely educational for me. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of films out there we didn't cover that's on my list that I just kind of like skipped over a little bit because of the simple fact it's like, we don't have all damn night. But we got most of them, so definitely check them out. And the one thing that I found being a horror movie fan or a werewolf movie fan is the more you dig, the more you find.
Yeah, definitely. All right, guys, so everyone, thanks for listening. There'll be a little thing, I keep reminding people this, but they'll probably be used to it by the time they listen to this episode. Got a little thing that runs in the right after the episode ends now, telling you where you can find all of our shit. So where you can find Paul's stuff, and you can find me and Daniel's stuff, and you can leave comments and all that garbage, and tell us how much we suck or how much we're awesome, and you want to throw naked women at us, whichever
naked
one.
Women.
Yeah.
And the only thing I could say is probably by the time they hear this, it'll be into the April, so you guys have a great holiday.
It will be, it will be April. Yeah. So, is there anything you would want to go out on music-wise there, Paul?
Well, yes. We're going to go out on Babbles. The Howling from, I think that's the name of the title. It's actually the main song that you'll hear in Howling 2, My Sister's a Werewolf, from 1985, I believe.
Cool. All right, guys. See you later. Bye-bye.
See ya.
In the pale, pale light of the moon, I've got a hunger that's emotional, a hunger that I can't control. I'm alone now, in my room again, on the prowl now, through your dreams again, howling.
Thank you for listening to They Must Be Destroyed on Sight. For our other episodes, links to Daniel, Paul, and Lee's other stuff, and links to some great podcasts of similar interest, visit us at tmbdos.podbean.com. There you can leave us comments on the site or directly email us. We listen and respond to everything. Thank you. Drive through.